Human Commander. This system now belongs to the Dravok Dominion. Leave immediately. The human officer did not react. He simply folded his hands behind his back. No, he said calmly. The Dravok commander narrowed his glowing eyes. This planet has no alliance with humanity. No human citizens live there. Why would you defend it? The council chamber waited for the answer. Even the human officer paused for a moment. Then he spoke slowly. Because humanity remembers. The Dravok commander tilted his head in confusion. Remembers what? The human officer looked directly into the camera. His voice became stronger. 300 years ago, someone from this planet saved the life of a human explorer. A wave of confusion moved through the Galactic Council. 300 years? That could not be the reason. Entire wars had started and ended in less time than that. The Dravok commander laughed. You gathered the largest fleet in human history for something that happened 3 centuries ago? The human officer did not laugh. His expression never changed. Yes, the Dravok commander's voice turned cold. Then you are prepared to start a war with the Dominion. For a stranger? For the first time, the human officer stepped closer to the camera. The stars behind him glowed across his uniform. When he spoke again, his voice was firm and clear. Not a stranger. He paused. A friend. The entire council chamber went silent. The human officer continued. 300 years ago, when humanity was weak and new to the stars, a citizen of Kareth helped a human in need. He looked at the camera again. And humanity does not forget kindness. The Dravok commander's expression slowly darkened. You would risk everything for a single act of kindness? The human officer gave a simple answer. Yes. Then he added one final sentence. And today, humanity repays its debts. The communication signal ended. The human fleet began to move. Warships shifted into Perfect Bay. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was louder than it had ever been before. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in their floating chairs, watching a giant screen in the center of the chamber. The screen showed a distant star system near the far edge of the galaxy. A peaceful planet called Kareth slowly turned in space. But the planet was no longer alone. Dark shapes filled the sky around it. Ships. Thousands of ships. And every single one of them belonged to humanity. The council members whispered nervously. Some looked afraid. Others looked confused. Humans were known across the galaxy for many things. They were explorers. They were builders. But most of all, they were known as warriors. When humans sent fleets this large, it usually meant only one thing. Yet something strange was happening. The human fleet was not attacking Kareth. Instead, the ships had formed a massive protective circle around the planet. Like a shield, like guardians. No one understood why. An insect-like council member from the Velkari. Union clicked his sharp claws together. This makes no sense, he said. Humans have no colonies on Kareth. No trade agreements, no military base. Another council member from the Selnari collective leaned forward. Then why are they here? Before anyone could answer, the giant screen suddenly zoomed out. More ships appeared, then more. The council chamber slowly grew quiet. This was not just a fleet. This was an armada. Human warships stretched across space like a metal storm. Giant carriers, battle cruisers, defense platforms, and escort ships filled the system. Some of the ships were so large that they could block the light of nearby stars. Even the oldest races in the council had never seen humanity gather such power in one place. Then another message appeared on the screen. A new fleet had entered the system. This one was smaller, but far more dangerous. The ships were black and sharp like knives. Every council member immediately recognized them. The Dravok Dominion, a race feared across the galaxy. The Dravok were conquerors. They took planets, stripped them of resources, and left nothing behind. And now their fleet was moving toward Kareth. The peaceful world had no defenses. No military, no protection. Many council members lowered their eyes. Everyone knew what normally happened when the Dravok arrived. But this time something was different, because humanity was already there. The Dravok fleet stopped when it saw the human armada. For a few long seconds, nothing moved. Then a communication signal appeared. The Dravok commander was calling the human fleet. The Galactic Council watched in complete silence. A tall human officer appeared on the screen. His uniform was dark and small silver stars marked his rank. His face was calm, but his eyes were cold and focused. Behind him, a window showed the endless line of human warships. The Dravok commander spoke first. His voice was deep and sharp. 300 years before the human armada appeared, the galaxy was a different place. Humanity was new to the stars. Their ships were small, their weapons weak, and their knowledge of space limited. Most alien civilizations saw humans as fragile, insignificant creatures barely fit to travel beyond their own system. Yet even in their weakness, humanity had courage. Captain Elias Ward was one such human explorer. His ship, the Horizon, had traveled farther than any before him. It carried only a handful of humans and enough supplies for months of exploration. But space was unpredictable and danger often came unannounced. On a routine mission near the uncharted system of Kareth, the Horizon was struck by a massive energy storm. Lightning-like arcs of plasma tore across the ship's hull. Instruments exploded, communications failed, and alarms screamed. The ship's engines failed entirely. Elias fought to keep the ship steady. Every decision was critical. A wrong move could destroy the vessel and end his life. Despite his skill, the storm was too powerful. The ship crashed onto the rocky surface of Kareth. When Elias awoke, he was injured. His arm was broken and deep cuts ran across his face. He could barely move. The Horizon's hull was crumpled, smoke curling from the wreckage. He was alone, far from Earth, and completely helpless. Kareth was not uninhabited. Strange creatures lived there, humanoids with smooth, pale skin, large dark eyes, and long, delicate limbs. They were called the Lurathi, a peaceful race who spent their lives farming, studying, and exploring their world. Violence was unknown to them, but the Lurathi were cautious. They had seen alien travelers before, and most were dangerous. Some wanted resources, some brought disease, some brought war. When Elias stumbled out of his ship, covered in blood and dirt, a young Lurathi healer named Sira found him. Sira had long arms and gentle hands, and her large, reflective eyes could see the faintest change in life energy. She froze for a moment, unsure if Elias was alive or dangerous. Despite her fear, she acted. Something inside her told her to help. She carried Elias back to her small village. She cleaned his wounds, applied healing salves, and fed him nutrient-rich food. Every day she worked tirelessly. Her people questioned her. Why help him? A council elder asked. Sira simply answered, because he needs help. That is enough. Days passed. Elias's condition improved, but his ship was beyond repair. Without engines or tools, he could not leave. Yet Sira continued to protect him, hiding him from others who wanted him gone. As Elias healed, he learned about the Lurathi people. They were kind, intelligent, and peaceful. They had little interest in war or power, yet they shared everything they had. Elias realized that in a galaxy full of greed and violence, such kindness was rare. One evening, as the two sat under the twin moons of Kareth, Elias asked the question that had been on his mind since his first day on the planet. Why me, he asked. Sira's eyes glimmered in the moonlight. Because you were hurt, and because anyone who suffers deserves help. Elias nodded, deeply moved. You do not even know me, yet you risked much to save my life. I do not need to know you, Sira said softly. All I know is that helping is right. That is enough for me. Weeks passed. The Horizon could not be repaired, but Sira's people built a new craft from spare parts and scraps. It would be small, but it could travel. Elias prepared to leave. Before departing, he turned to Sira and the Lurathi villagers. I will never forget what you have done, he said. Humanity may be small now, weak even, but one day we will grow. And one day humanity will repay this kindness. Sira smiled. She had heard such promises before. Aliens, humans, travelers, they all spoke of repayment and honor. Few kept their word. Do not speak of it again, she said. Live, grow, that is enough. Elias lifted his new craft. The villagers waved as he left, and Sira watched until the Horizon swallowed the tiny ship. Centuries passed. Humanity spread through the stars. Their technology advanced. Ships grew bigger, weapons stronger, colonies expanded across countless systems. Wars were fought, victories celebrated, and enemies defeated. Yet the memory of one kindness endured in the records of human history. No one alive remembered Sira personally, yet her act became a symbol, a story told quietly among the fleets. And now, hundreds of years later, humanity had the chance to repay that kindness. Kareth, the peaceful world that once saved one human life, was threatened by the Dravok Dominion. Powerful fleets had surrounded it, and the Galactic Council hesitated. No one would intervene. The Lurathi were defenseless, yet humanity remembered. The armada that appeared over Kareth was not just a display of power, it was a promise kept. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon in position was a silent message. Centuries had passed since Sira's act of kindness, and the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Humanity was no longer weak. Their ships spanned thousands of light years, armed with weapons that could destroy entire planets. Their colonies dotted star systems, and their fleets patrolled the edges of the known universe. Yet despite their power, the memory of one small act endured. One life saved, one kindness returned. Humanity never forgot. Meanwhile, the peaceful planet of Kareth continued its quiet life. Its forests stretched for thousands of miles. Rivers sparkled under twin suns, and mountains pierced the clouds. The Lurathi people thrived, unaware that the galaxy beyond their skies had become dangerous. For centuries, Kareth had been overlooked by warlike empires. It was small, resource-rich, but unimportant strategically. That was about to change. A dark shadow was creeping toward Kareth. The Dravok Dominion, a race of conquerors feared across countless systems, had discovered the planet. They were vast, ruthless, and merciless. Every world they touched fell to ruin. The Lurathi received their first warning in the form of a message. It was simple, direct, and terrifying. Surrender your planet and your resources, or face complete annihilation. The Dravok Dominion does not negotiate. Panic spread among the Lurathi leaders. They were a peaceful people with no armies, no warships, and no weapons powerful enough to defend their home. Their only hope was the Galactic Council. The Council, however, hesitated. Many members feared the Dravok. Their fleets were enormous, their technology far beyond most civilizations. No one wanted to risk war with them. Some even argued that Kareth's fall would be acceptable collateral damage. The Lurathi were left helpless. Their civilization, their culture, their homes, they had no protection. And for the first time, the galaxy's greatest fear seemed to loom over them: extinction. Among the Lurathi, a young scientist named Thalen refused to give in to despair. He had spent his life studying human history, records of early space exploration, and old logs left by human travelers. One evening, he discovered a faded, nearly forgotten human archive in the ancient Galactic database. Dusty and worn, it contained a log file from Captain Elias Ward, the very human who had been saved by Sira centuries ago. Thalen's heart raced as he read the words. The Lurathi people of Kareth showed kindness to humanity when we were weak. They are friends of Earth forever. One day we will repay this debt. Thalen stared at the message. Could this really be true? Could humanity, after 3 centuries, still remember one act of kindness? Could they come to Kareth's aid? With trembling hands, he transmitted the log to human space.
He included a plea.
Our people are peaceful. We have no military. Please help us. We are your friends. Then he waited. For 3 long hours, nothing happened. The Dravok fleet continued its slow approach, dark shapes cutting across Kareth's skies. Every Lurathi child, farmer, and scholar looked to the heavens with fear. Their elders whispered that this could be the end. But then distant lights appeared at the edge of the system. At first, they were small, just pinpricks of brightness against the darkness of space. But they multiplied rapidly, spreading across the void. Thalen watched in disbelief as thousands of human ships emerged from the shadows. Their hulls gleamed in the light of Kareth's suns. Fighters streaked past like silver arrows. Massive carriers and warships formed tight formations. The human fleet had arrived. The Lurathi had never imagined such a sight. Ships so vast, so powerful, and so precise that it seemed impossible to believe. And yet there they were. Humanity had remembered. Humanity had come. The Dravok fleet noticed them too. At first they laughed. Humans would not risk themselves for one insignificant planet, the Dravok commander said. They have no colonies nearby. Why would they care? But as the humans moved into defensive formations around Kareth, the laughter died. Massive warships positioned themselves strategically, blocking the Dravok advance. Smaller fighters patrolled above the planet's surface, creating a protective shield. Human warships had weapons powerful enough to crush entire fleets, and the Dravok were about to realize it. For the first time, the Lurathi saw the truth. Humans were not just explorers, not just warriors. They were a force that did not forget a debt. A single act of kindness repeated across centuries had summoned the galaxy's most powerful defenders. Thalen felt tears in his eyes as he watched the human commander's ship move into position. The commander's voice echoed across the fleet and through the Lurathi communication system. "We are here because one of your people saved a human life centuries ago. Humanity does not forget kindness. Today we repay our debt." The Dravok commander's eyes narrowed in. The human fleet hovered above Kareth like a silent guardian. Thousands of ships gleamed in the twin sun's light, forming a shield that stretched across the planet's orbit. Every Lurathi on the surface stared at the sky, mouths open in disbelief. They had never imagined such a thing could happen. In the heart of the fleet, aboard the massive command ship Valiant, the human admiral walked slowly across the bridge. His uniform was pristine, his face calm, but his eyes held a fire that no alien could mistake. Every screen, every radar, every map displayed the same thing. The Dravok fleet was approaching, but they were no longer the hunters. They were the prey. The Admiral, Commander Nathaniel Kane, tapped a control panel, bringing up a hollow recording of an ancient human explorer. The image flickered but was clear enough to show Captain Elias Ward, centuries ago standing on Kareth under its twin moons. Kane's voice echoed through the bridge. "This is why we are here. 300 years ago, Captain Elias Ward was saved by the Lurathi. Humanity does not forget, and today we repay the debt." Beside him, a young officer named Lieutenant Mara Chen nodded. "Sir, all ships are in position. Shields at full capacity. Weapons online." Kane studied the map of the system. "Good, prepare the message. We don't want war if it can be avoided. Send this to the Dravok fleet. Humanity is here to protect Kareth. Any attack will be met with full force." The message was sent. Across the void, the Dravok commander intercepted it. His eyes narrowed as he read the warning. He laughed at first, a sharp, cruel sound. "Humans protect Kareth? This is absurd. They have no reason, no strategy. This will be easy." But the humans did not wait. Fighters streaked forward, warships took defensive positions, and the first warning shots were fired, not to kill, but to demonstrate precision. Plasma bursts exploded near Dravok scouts, showing them the humans' reach. Back on Kareth, the Lurathi watched in stunned silence. They had never seen ships move so fast, so precise, so coordinated. Every human vessel acted as if it were connected to a single mind. Thalen, the young Lurathi scientist who had sent the plea for help, could hardly believe it. It's true," he whispered. They really remembered. All of them. Humanity never forgets. The Dravok commander, realizing the humans were serious, ordered his fleet to prepare for combat. Massive ships powered up shields, weapons glowed ominously, and fighter wings launched in waves. But every step the Dravok took, humans anticipated. Every movement, every attack, every strategy had been predicted. The human fleet was not just defending Kareth, it was overwhelming the invaders, with strategy and coordination that no one had seen before. Kane walked to the communication console. His voice, calm but firm, addressed the Lurathi leaders watching from their planetary terminals.
"Your people helped one of ours when we were weak. That act of kindness is remembered across centuries. Today we honor it. Humanity does not repay only with words. We repay with action, with loyalty, and with strength." The Lurathi were silent, tears streaming down their faces. They had never understood what the humans meant by friendship. They had never imagined a race could be so powerful, yet so bound by honor. Meanwhile, the Dravok were beginning to panic. Their calculations had not prepared them for this. These humans, they are more than we imagined. They are dangerous, organized, and relentless. Kane's voice came again through the communication system, now projected into the Dravok flagship. "We do not fight because we hate you. We fight because we honor a promise. Withdraw, and Kareth remains untouched. Attack, and you will regret it for centuries." A silence followed. The Dravok commander's face hardened. He had underestimated humanity, and that mistake was about to cost him. Below, on Kareth, Sira's descendants watched the unfolding scene. They had inherited the stories of the past, tales of a human named Elias Ward and a young healer who had helped him. They never imagined the ripple of that one act would echo so far. And now the humans were not asking for gratitude. They were not demanding reward. They were fulfilling a promise, one made long before any of the current generations had been born. The Lurathi realized something profound. Kindness, no matter how small, was never forgotten. Humanity's loyalty was absolute and their memory eternal. The Dravok fleet, seeing human strategy and overwhelming numbers, began to falter. Confusion spread among their ranks. How can one species remember so much? How can they be so prepared? Kane turned to his officers. Prepare for defensive positioning around the planet. We don't strike unless necessary. Remember, our goal is Kareth's safety, not conquest. The humans were calm, precise, and controlled. Their power was immense, but it was guided by principle. Every move they The first rays of Kareth's twin suns glinted. Off the human armada, like 1,000 blades of silver and steel. From orbit, the planet looked calm and peaceful. But above it, the stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the galaxy. The Dravok Dominion had arrived in full force. Black warships stretched across space like jagged mountains, shields glowing ominously, engines humming with deadly energy. Their fighters swooped in waves, ready to strike the defenseless planet below. But humanity had already anticipated every move. The human fleet was perfectly aligned, shields humming with energy, weapons charged, and fighter squadrons streaking through the void like silver hawks. Every ship, every weapon, every pilot operated with one single purpose: protect Kareth. Commander Nathaniel Kane stood on the bridge of the flagship Valiant, calm as ever. His voice echoed across the communication network, firm and unwavering. Dravok Dominion, step away from Kareth immediately. This world is under human protection. Any aggression will be met with full force. The Dravok commander, a towering figure with chitin armor and piercing red eyes, sneered. Humans protecting a weak, peaceful world. Your fleets cannot match the Dominion. You will die here. Kane smiled faintly. Underestimating humanity is always your first mistake. Then it began. The first wave of human fighters accelerated, weaving through the Dravok attack formations with incredible speed. Plasma cannons fired with precision, disabling the Dominion's forward scouts before they could even respond. Ships that had expected an easy battle found themselves dodging missiles, energy nets, and guided torpedoes from angles they never anticipated. The Dravok fleet had never faced humans on this scale. Every strategy they had studied for decades failed against a species that was not just strong, but relentless and precise. On Kareth, the Lurathi watched, in awe from their observation decks and communication stations. Farmers, teachers, and children pressed their faces against screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. Ships larger than their cities moved as if alive, protecting every inch of their world. Thalen, the young scientist who had sent humanity's plea centuries ago, whispered to himself, It's happening. They remembered. They actually remembered. Above the planet, the battle intensified. Human carriers launched wave after wave of fighters to intercept the Dravok attackers. Human capital ships unleashed coordinated volleys, crippling Dominion warships in minutes. Energy shields flared, engines exploded, and the Dravok were forced into a full retreat. The Dravok commander barked orders, trying to regroup. Focus on the humans. Take their ships down! They cannot all be protected. But humans did not falter. Every move was calculated, every attack countered, every threat neutralized. And all the while, the message was clear. Kareth is not alone. Humanity remembers. Humanity protects its friends. On the bridge of the Valiant, Kane turned to his officers. Prepare the secondary fleet. We will encircle the Dominion and force them to retreat. Remember, no unnecessary destruction. Kareth is safe. That is our priority. The secondary fleet moved like a tidal wave. Human ships flanked the Dravok from every direction, their firepower precise, their speed unmatched. In less than an hour, the Dravok lost half their fighters, several warships, and their momentum. Panic rippled through their ranks. On Kareth, children cheered and elders wept quietly. They had never expected such a thing. They had never imagined that one human life saved centuries ago could lead to the protection of their entire world. The Dravok commander, realizing defeat was inevitable, tried one last bluff. We will return. Humanity will not stop the Dominion forever. Kane's voice rang across space, calm, cold, and unyielding. Then we will wait. Humanity remembers all deaths, and humanity will protect its friends, always. The Dravok fleet disengaged, retreating toward the darkness of the outer galaxy. The humans did not pursue. Their mission had never been conquest. It had always been protection. Below, the Lurathi sent messages of gratitude, but Kane knew it was unnecessary. Words were never required. Humanity's actions had already spoken louder than any message could. Thalen turned to a young Lurathi guard beside him. Do you see now? He said. This is what kindness creates. One act can ripple across centuries, shaping the galaxy itself. The guard nodded, awestruck. I never believed humans could be loyal like this. Powerful, yes. Terrifying, yes. But loyal. I have never seen anything like it. On the bridge of the Valiant, Kane looked out at Kareth below. Its forests, rivers, and cities were untouched. The planet's people were safe. The centuries-old promise had been fulfilled. He turned to his officers. Prepare for withdrawal. Kareth is safe and the debt has been repaid. Huma. The battle was over. Above Kareth, the human fleet hovered for a final moment. Massive ships gleaming under the twin suns. Every fighter, every cruiser, every colossal warship was perfectly aligned, forming a shield around the planet. Not a single Lurathi had been harmed. Not a single city had been damaged. Commander Nathaniel Kane stood on the bridge of the Valiant, gazing down at the planet below. Forests stretched across continents, rivers glittered, and cities buzzed with life. Kareth was untouched and its people were safe. Beside him, Lieutenant Mara Chen looked at the holographic map of the battlefield. The Dravok fleet had retreated, their pride shattered. Sir, she said, voice soft, they didn't expect any of this. Kane shook his head slightly, a small smile forming. No, they didn't, and they never will understand the humans who honor a promise. This was never about glory or power or fear. This was about repayment and loyalty. On Kareth, the Lurathi leaders gathered in the central plaza. Screens flickered as the human commander's voice addressed them directly. Your people saved a human life centuries ago. That act, though small, was never forgotten. Humanity does not forget kindness. Today we repay that debt. Tears filled the eyes of many Lurathi. Elders whispered among themselves, unable to comprehend the scale of what had just happened. Farmers, children, scholars, they all looked skyward in amazement. Thalen, the young scientist who had first sent humanity's plea, finally spoke aloud. It was true. Every word of it. Humans never forget, not even across centuries, not even across galaxies. Syrah's descendants, who had heard the stories of the healer who saved Elias Ward long ago, stood quietly. They had grown up hearing that humanity was distant, strange, and often dangerous. But now they understood. Humans could be terrifyingly powerful, and yet profoundly loyal. Back on the Valiant, Kane continued his message. We have no desire to conquer, no desire to rule. Our only goal is to honor the promise made centuries ago. Kindness matters. Loyalty matters. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity is dangerous to those who threaten its friends, but a true ally to those who show compassion, even once. The Lurathi leaders realized that the humans had not just saved their planet, they had taught them a lesson about the nature of humanity. One act of kindness remembered across generations could summon unimaginable power. One life saved could echo across centuries, shaping the fate of worlds. The Dravok Dominion would never underestimate humanity again. They had seen that a promise, a memory, a single act of mercy could call forth an army capable of defeating empires. As the human fleet slowly began to withdraw, Kareth remained under protection. Not because humans wished to control it, but because they honored the debt of loyalty and friendship. Thalen turned to the young guard beside him. Do you see now? He said, his voice trembling. It is not only strength that makes humanity great. It is their memory, their loyalty, their sense of honor. They repay debts. They never forget a kindness. The guard nodded silently, awe written across his face. We have learned something important today. A single good act can change the fate of a world. High above, Kane watched as the last of the human warships disappeared into the stars. Their mission was complete. No one in the fleet spoke of fame, glory, or reward. They had done what was right, because it was promised. And somewhere in the history records of humanity, the name of Syrah, the healer who had saved Captain Elias Ward, would shine forever as a symbol of how small acts of compassion can ripple across time and space. Kane turned to his officers. Prepare the fleet for jump. Our work here is done. Kareth is safe. Humanity has repaid its debt. In that moment, across the galaxy, an understanding began to spread. Humans are powerful. Humans are unpredictable. Humans can conquer, fight, and survive in ways no one else can. But above all, humans are loyal. They remember kindness. They honor promises. And when a debt of gratitude is due, humanity will move heaven and stars to repay it. On Kareth, as the twin sun set, the Lurathi celebrated, not just for their survival, but for the revelation that loyalty and kindness could create forces stronger than armies, stronger than empires, stronger than fear itself. The galaxy had witnessed the true nature of humanity. They were a race to be feared by enemies, but revered by allies. Dangerous, yes, but noble too. A race whose memory of kindness could shape the fate of worlds centuries into the future. And it all began with one small choice. One simple act of mercy. One life saved. The story of the last human warrior saved by Kareth would never be forgotten. And in that truth, the universe finally understood why humanity, no matter how far it traveled, no matter how strong it became, was never to be underestimated.